Okay, guys, we're going to continue with our series of interviewing all the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff candidates. And today I've got Mike Reid with me. As you guys saw, we've already aired the Stitch Guillory interview, and we have the other interviews. I will say this, we still don't have any word or any contact for or with Bradley Mall, so it looks like he's not going to be part of this series. But the other 5 candidates will be, and we're going to go ahead and get rolling. Mike, with your interview. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Paul.
Mike, we're going to get right into this, and I'm going to kind of preface some of these questions with some of the same things we talked about with the other candidates, and it's why we're doing this.
That's right.
A lot of these questions are geared more towards what the community is talking about now. When I say the community, I mean constitutional, respecting people, Second Amendment people. And a lot of these questions get asked to me all the time when I'm interviewing either congressional candidates or whomever.
Right.
And typically at this level, we're not usually at a very small or local level. We don't address these questions because most of your local politicians are not going to impact constitutional type amendments,
right,
or any kind of things like that. The sheriff's office can. There's a direct handoff between the federal government in some cases and what you guys would be doing as sheriff of the community.
That's correct.
Not only that, the ATF is involved in so many Second Amendment related issues. The ATF not having its own police force would rely on you guys.
Right.
So it's very important to me and a lot of our viewers out there to understand where you would stand if you were elected sheriff. So that's why these questions are worded like they are.
That's right. I understand.
Okay, well, let's get started. Number one, do you support the law-abiding people of Calcasieu Parish Calcasieu Parish constitutional right to purchase and own all currently available firearms, including AR-15s, along with standard capacity magazines that can hold 30 rounds or more?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, AR-15 is a rifle. It's not define assault. You know.
Right.
It's a rifle. It's just like a 308 or 270 or something. I mean, it's a rifle. So that's the way I look at it.
If you
just looks different.
If there was any kind of law that was passed that were to mandate either confiscation of or banning of these firearms, because as you remember, we had one in '94, a technical ban, even though it didn't remove them. I mentioned this to some of the other candidates, we are constantly hearing the President of the United States talk about we need to ban. I mean, on Sunday night I read a post from him. We need to ban assault weapons, he calls it.
Define assault.
Well, but
it goes back to that, and I don't support that.
I don't want to fall into the category of, oh, that'll never happen.
Right.
Because we've seen crazier things happen in the last 2 years. If they were to pass an outright ban, and you're sheriff, and they require you to confiscate AR-15s because they say they are no longer legal for a citizen to possess, how would you handle that?
I would stand up with the people and no, we're not going to confiscate people's guns. I mean, we have the Second Amendment that's the right to bear arms, keep and bear arms. You know, I mean, we're going to keep our arms, and I'm going to stand behind that.
Okay. Fair enough. Number two, do you believe law-abiding citizens should be able to give, loan, or sell a gun to a friend or family member without filling out a federal background check? And obviously what I'm talking about there is the private transfer of firearms without having to go purchase one at an FFL, or if you went to a retail outlet, by law you have to fill out your background check and your 4473. If you and I are trading guns or selling guns to each other, we're not required by law in the state of Louisiana to do that. If they passed a law that required that, how would you handle that?
I would stick with the current laws right now. I wouldn't go with the. That's why we don't have a war in the United States. Is too many people have guns. There's a gun behind every blade of grass. Yeah, I would keep our current laws right now. I wouldn't change it where you would have to go through the federal government to do everything. Because if you go to the federal government, they're going to require a serial number or what have you, and that's crazy. I mean, no.
Okay. Number three, in states that have them, red flag confiscation laws, otherwise known as extreme risk protection orders, allow any individual to petition a court to issue a protective order requiring the accused to immediately relinquish all firearms and ammunition and giving law enforcement the authority to confiscate all firearms and ammunition from people who are accused of being a danger to themselves or others. All of this can take place without the accused's knowledge and without any constitutionally required due process. If Louisiana were to implement a red flag confiscation law, would you as sheriff enforce that law?
That would go on an individual basis. Everybody's different. People go through different things. They go through bad times, they go through hard times, and they have good times and stuff. But I believe that would be an individual basis where you'd have to interview and talk to each person individually.
So let me press you on that. Just to be fair, if you had, you say an individual basis, if you had a circumstance where you feel like you should or could take somebody's firearms from them, confiscate them without due process,
purposes.
what is that situation? Can
For
you
safety
define that?
purposes?
Well, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
under the guise of a red flag or extreme risk protection order, under that law right there, give me a situation where you feel like it would be adequate to violate somebody's due process in order to confiscate those guns. If you see a scenario that exists out there, what would that be?
Say a husband and wife issue or something, and the husband has guns. He's threatened the wife before, or something like that. Well, then I would definitely do that in order to protect the family and protect the husband or wife or whichever one it may be. I would definitely do that, and we'd have to talk about it for sure.
I'm not sure if I completely follow you, but I'm just more concerned with what that thing would be. What would be that thing that triggered you to say, okay, now we need to take his guns?
It'd be a safety issue.
But what would that safety issue be?
The
what,
family.
What would be the
I wouldn't want the whoever was violated or stuff. I wouldn't want that person to grab a gun and go crazy or go kill somebody else or nothing.
But how would you arrive to that you thought they were crazy enough that you needed to take that gun?
You would have to look at the past history of that person and what he's done or what he said or.
And what would that thing be that he would have done or said that you feel like you could do that?
Say you have other complaints or other calls or stuff to that same house, or complaints of stuff that are documented that he's got guns, he's threatened, or there's even phone calls that have been recorded or something, or text messages that have been found saying that he's a threat to the other significant, or he's a threat to a family or something. You'd have to have some type of hard facts and stuff in order to do that.
Okay, number 4, if the non-legislative non-lawmaking ATF were to attempt to require the sheriff's office to enforce a ruling that Congress did not pass as a law per the Constitution, would your sheriff's office attempt to enforce it? And I want to be very clear on this. The ATF does not make law. Congress makes law.
That's right.
The ATF issues rulings.
That's right.
So because something comes from the ATF does not mean that you are bound by law to enforce that.
That's right.
Because you are following the Constitution and the rule of law, not a rule-making body. So I want to make sure that a lot of people misunderstand that when the ATF says something that's a law. That is not a law.
That's right.
Congress makes laws.
That's
so
right.
How would you handle the ATF saying, Mike Reid, your sheriff's office needs to go out and confiscate all stabilizing braces because we deem them to be illegal to own and possess, although Congress has not done that? How would you handle that?
If Congress has not done that, it goes back to the Second Amendment again, the right to keep and bear arms. You have the right to keep and bear arms for the fear of yourself and your family. I wouldn't take guns. That's the beautiful thing in America. We live in a free country, and we have the right to keep and bear arms. I wouldn't go and confiscate people's guns, just confiscate them because the ATF says so.
Let me throw a little bit of a caveat into that. The federal government is also known, following back up on the number 3 question that we just asked, to allocate bribe money is what I call it, but grant money to try to convince somebody, a certain body, to do something a certain way. If you were to refuse to do something for the ATF that was not considered law, and the federal government said, well, we're going to withhold grant money as a result of that, how would you handle that situation?
If they withhold grant money, well, then they know that they're doing wrong. So we'd have to deal with it and go from there. But I wouldn't let that bother me.
Okay. All right. Number 5, our neighbors directly to our north, Beauregard Parish, or an official Second Amendment sanctuary parish, which means that any new law that is passed which is against or violates the people's Second Amendment rights in any way will not be enforced with any local funds or utilizing any local law enforcement. As sheriff of Calcasieu Parish, would you consider making Calcasieu Parish a Second Amendment sanctuary parish?
Yes.
And why? Tell me why you think that that's important.
I strongly believe in the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. I strongly agree with that, and like I said in the beginning, that's why we don't have wars over here in the United States, because everybody has a gun. But if you're a convicted felon, you don't need a firearm at all. You will not have a firearm. But if you're a legal, law-abiding citizen, you have all the right in the world to have a firearm, and I strongly believe in that. So,
Okay.
but I do believe everybody needs to go through some type of training, some type of law class or something where they know what the law is and how to use that firearm properly. I do believe that.
Okay, and in what way?
Like go through some type of safety class or a firearm safety class or whichever, and that's something that I would put on a regular basis.
Are you
And that would be
referring
free
to
classes.
people who are carrying or people who just possess a gun?
Both, because if you're not familiar with a gun or something, you need to get familiar with it. Even if you have them and you don't intend on using them and stuff. I know people that have guns and hadn't been trained or anything, hadn't been to the range, hadn't even shot it, but they have guns. They don't know what to do with it. I mean, they could if they absolutely had to.
Now, is this something you say you would make available or you would require?
No, I would make available.
Okay.
I wouldn't require it. I would definitely make it available.
Okay.
So, and I would go throughout the whole parish.
Okay.
So, yeah, everybody needs to know how to operate a gun and what the use of it is and the laws that stand behind it.
Okay. All right. Well, look, if people want to know more about your campaign, how can they reach out? How can they look at more information on things that you have? Obviously, we're talking about Second Amendment issues. On other issues, how can they get information on your campaign?
They can go to, I have Facebook pages, Michael A. Reid for Sheriff. They can go there. I mean, they can also call me if they want to. I give my phone number out to a lot of people, and I say this to tell people: look, if you call me and I don't answer, I will call you back. But my phone number, my cell phone number, and this is directly to me, is 337-802-3154.
Okay.
337-802-3154. They can call me directly. I'll go meet with them, and we'll discuss whatever matters they have.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, best of luck to you, Mike, and thank you for sitting down with
Appreciate
us.
it, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's so horrible.